I've been in the tree care industry for a long time now, about 35 years, and I'm closely approaching 60. And in this time in tree care climbing, I've gone through some bumps in the road where I've gotten injured. It helped me learn new techniques to help me preserve my body. I've noticed in our channel, we have a lot of viewers that are older, in the older age. So what we're gonna do is dedicate a video on learning techniques that will help you preserve your body and climb for a long time. Also, if you're a younger guy, this would be a good video for you to do the same. Preserve your body learning these new techniques that can maybe help you climb till you're in your hundreds. All right, let's get to it. One of the first techniques that I need to talk about is the MRS system. It used to be called the DDRT. Anyhow, that's where you throw a rope over a branch and then you use your same line and you tie an anchor knot to your body or your saddle, and then you have a bridge and then you tie your friction hitch. It's normally a taut line or a Blake's. So that's a real good system and people have been using it for years. It is pretty taxing on your body. So the technique in that is that once you have that all set up, now you go to the tree, you're connected to the tree, and you'll grab underneath your knot and you're gonna pull your body weight. So the technique in that is that you reach as high as you can, grab your shoulders, you reach, now you thrust your hips up, you have your feet high on the trunk, now you pull that rope, and with one hand, you hold the rope, and then you push that friction hitch up. Pretty taxing on your body, you use a lot of energy and a lot of muscles. Plus you're using one hand to hold your weight. And that's basically how you would do the MRS system. Now there's been advancements throughout the years. The very first advancement that I could recall would be the friction saver or the cambium saver. So about the cambium saver or the friction saver, it's one and the same. What it is it's either a strap or a rope that has a couple of rings on it. And what you'll do with that is you send it up into the tree, all the way to where your final tie-in is, and then you send your rope up through the rings. What the friction saver does is it reduces the friction on your rope against the trunk. Now say if it was a rough bark tree, the rope has a lot of friction. So every time you do your pull, it's really harder on your body. But having a friction saver, it's almost like having a pulley up there. So when you do your pulls, it's so much easier on your body. Even in the system that's the original MRS system, when you pull, it's a lot easier to pull your weight up, and even when holding one hand, it's easier to make that friction hitch getting thrown up. That would be the friction saver. Another advancement to make things easier for you are press-it cords and pulley. Having that in your system, especially if you're using MRS, it makes it a lot easier. With that MRS system, with the bridge and all that, you grab underneath your knot, and when you pull, it's pretty hard. Once you put a press-it cords are great because now you can pick a bunch of different types of knots, some that really advance easy or they grip more. But anyways, you have that option where you can make it easier for your body. Having that pulley underneath, it helps you when you do your system and you're climbing, instead of underneath your climbing hitch, you grab above it. And that makes it so much more easier to pull your body weight upward. And then you would still do the tending underneath the pulley. Anyhow, with that system, it does make it easier for you on your climb. Another great thing to use is self-tending systems. And a real good one is a hitch climber pulley. It's the same thing, you'll have a pulley and a press-it cord, but with that hitch climber pulley, it can actually advance your knot without you having to do it. So every time you pull your system upward, your knot advances for you. It's a lot better than you holding with one hand and pushing the knot up, or just holding your one hand and tending your line underneath. Having that hitch climber pulley is a great thing because it makes it so much easier to advance your way up the tree. I also wanted to mention that we've made a video on the self-tending system, so it's going to be up here somewhere. You guys want to have a look at that. That was the MRS system. But there's another system that I need to talk about. It's the stationary rope system. It took me a little bit of time to really think about getting into that, but once I did, it was like night and day. With the stationary rope system, it's so much easier on your body, and there are so many different options that you can use in your climbing systems. You can go out to farther branches. When you're ascending a tree, it's like you're floating. It's so much easier on your body, and really it's a game changer in the tree care industry. I understand people are skeptical of the SRS system, especially if you've been using the MRS system for most of your life. But with just a few pieces of equipment, you could be in an SRS system and probably not so much cost. If you get a rope wrench and a tether, and if you already use a friction cord system with a pulley, you're most of the way there. All you need to do is get that rope wrench and tether, also a foot ascender and a knee ascender, and you're on your way. In using that, you'll find that it's going to be a lot better on your body. So once you attach your rope wrench, it's not going to be friction based anymore. All the friction is going to be on your system, and it's stationary, so your rope runs up and down the system. The rope you throw over the top, there won't be any friction, so you don't have to worry about that. You'll connect that system to your body, and you're going to use your knee and foot ascender. So when you're ascending the tree, it's going to be like you're floating up. It's going to be, when you get there, it's going to be so much nicer. You're using your big body parts, so it's going to be easier on your body. You're not going to be leaning back. So, you know, in tree care, if you're doing body thrust, a lot of time you can end up with some back pain. You'll be having better posture. You'll be standing straight up, and then you'll ascend the tree. Also, you're not going to be using all your muscle and shoulders on body thrusting. You're more going to be holding your hands, and you're going to put one hand over the other because your legs are going to be doing the work. And it's going to self-tend because you're going to connect something to the friction-based climbing system, and every step you take, it comes with you. So there's not that one hand where you're holding and trying to force the knot upward. It's such a better system, and I think you would enjoy it. Once you jump into the MRS system and then get to that SRS system, you'll find that there's so many different things you can do, like redirects. In a redirect on an MRS system, when you do that, there's so much more friction, so you can't really move your knot. But in SRS, because it's going to be connected to you here, you could do multiple redirects and still have that same ease of movement as you would with out a redirect. Those are some of the things that I think you would enjoy about it, and I hope you guys think about it. Now that we've done some of the climbing systems, I want to talk about some of the preventive measures. One of the things that I've done throughout my career in tree care is I've stretched before work in the morning. It's really important. Think about it. An athlete, before they do their event, they're out there stretching because in an event, you know that you can get injured. Well, think about this. You are a professional. If you're doing tree care, you're a professional climber. Doesn't it make sense to stretch before you get into your event every single day? That's something that can help you out. A lot of times if you do that, you'll be less likely to get injured throughout the years. Keep this in mind. I'd rather spend 20 minutes of stretching a day rather than 20 years of pain. I'd like to take a minute to talk about our channel, the Bino H channel. In our channel, you'll find tutorials on making tree climbing gear. Also, you'll find videos on how to begin climbing from the beginning all the way to advanced. You'll even find some videos on tree ID. So with that, please consider subscribing to our channel, and let's get back to our video. Another great thing to keep in mind, your hearing. Now, throughout the years, I've worked next to chippers, chainsaws, heavy equipment, and like when I was younger, I wasn't using earplugs or earmuffs. That's something that really you should do to save your hearing. Doesn't matter. So throughout your life, you will lose hearing just because you age. But when you don't use earplugs near heavy equipment, that loss is really noticeable. It's kind of a bummer. Nowadays, if I go and I'm near a crowd and there's any little bit of background noise, it's really difficult for me to hear people. So I think if I had to do it again, I would definitely make sure I always put earplugs in or earmuffs. That's something that you really ought to consider in tree care. While you're working in tree care, you're around lots of dust. It could be the dust on the ground or the different trees. Sycamore trees, they have hair on the leaf, so that dust flies in the air and you're sucking all that in. So sometimes having like a dust mask or even a gaiter that you put across your face will help. Now that's not gonna get all the dust, and if you multiply that by how many days you're working in that, that's a lot of stuff that you're sucking in. Now, it's a good idea to wear some kind of protection while you're working. Also, there's things that you can do that I used to do when I was younger, especially when I was working with those dusty situations. There's these rinses that you can use for your nose. I think one's called a neti pot. But anyways, if you have a week long of that, and then you, like toward the end of the week, you get that neti pot, you can rinse your nose out. That'll help you out. But having something to protect your face would be huge. Another thing to think about are the boots that you wear. I was stubborn for years and I wore regular work boots. And honestly, if you're up in a tree for any length of time, you know that your feet can start to hurt. And so for me, like I was going, and I had them for many years, walking on the ground sometimes felt like knives on my feet. So finally I took a jump into the tree care work boots, and honestly they're a huge game changer. The sole of them are more sturdy, so when you're up in the tree it doesn't hurt your feet. Also, what's even better than that a lot of them will have chainsaw protection, and they have loops if you're using SRT. It's something that's really great to use, and I honestly it was a huge game changer for me. So something to help preserve your body are tree climbing boots. The last point I want to talk about is your PPE, personal protective equipment. So definitely you always want to use that. And I'd say even if you're doing a rec climb, you make sure that you're using the PPE. That will be your hard hat, the helmet that's a tree climbing helmet. You don't want to use a regular hard hat. You want something that will not fall off if you take a swing. Also, having gloves. They're not required usually, but having gloves with grip, if you're getting older, that's something that will really make a big difference in your climbing. Then you also want to make sure you put your safety glasses on. You could, even if it's like rec climbing, in climbing things can happen like a leaf or dust or even crumbs could get in your eye and it can mess you up. So having safety glasses is really huge. And definitely you're always going to have the work boots. Having all that when you're in tree care, it will definitely help preserve you. Getting older can be cumbersome, especially if you're in tree care. Today we went over some methods that'll help you preserve your body for the long run. And if you're a young guy and you follow some of these techniques, hopefully you can preserve your body past 70 and maybe even 100. With that, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Take care, we'll see you next time.